equally called of God to minister. This is the Second Reformation. It's going on. Now, in designing the ministry, originally, we made two assumptions. The first was that lay people can pastor. I remember in a seminar elaborating on this and using the word pastor quite often and talking about, I love pastoring people. I just love to pastor members of the congregation. And an elderly man came to me and he said, "Excuse me, I'm a little hard of hearing. Did you say pastor or pester?" Well, we're talking here about the fact that lay people can pastor. And this was one of our assumptions originally. The second was that members will accept pastoring from other lay people. Well, we were quite certain of the first one because of reading the scriptures that lay people could pastor. But we were not real sure that members would accept pastoral care from other members of the church. And so when we tried this, we found to our great joy that it worked, that most of the people accepted the caring initiatives of these lay people. Now let's talk for a bit about the fact that you can do it. The word pastor intimidates people. As a matter of fact, there are more churches who have adopted or adapted this model of pastoral care who do not use the term lay pastor. They use lay minister or shepherd or care partners or something. But I'm a strong proponent for using the word pastor. And you may be sitting there wondering, can I really do this, because of the designation of pastor being to the vocational clergy. But let me tell you that you can do it. Let me read a few sections from this book, and the first comes from a psychologist, Robert Karkoff. His research shows, and I quote here, "Lay people can learn to help as effectively as professional helpers. For many purposes and problems, lay people can be as effective or more effective than credentialed helpers. Lay people can learn to understand others and act upon this understanding as well as or better than professionals." Now let me tell you something about this. Professor Karkoff is not a minister, but he's a psychologist. And so he's not talking about pastoral care, but he's talking about wrestling with people's problems, being with them, listening to them, and helping them in their problems. And for him to say that in many cases lay people can be more effective, or at least just as effective as the credentialed helpers, is truly significant. So you can see why I say you can do it. If it can happen in the professional counseling arena, certainly it can happen in the professional pastoring arena. You become professionally involved with people in pastorally caring for them. Well, let me cite another man. This one is a Missouri Synod Lutheran pastor and theologian, Oscar Voigt, in his little book, Every Member a Minister. He gives a definition of a church, and you'll be surprised at this perhaps. His definition of a church is a ministerium of all who have Christ in their hearts. What is a ministerium? A ministerium is an informally gathering together of the ordained clergy of any community. The Baptist pastor, the Methodist pastor, the Catholic priest, and whoever else happens to be in the community meet together usually once a month, and that's called a ministerium. Now for Oscar Voigt to say that the church is a ministerium of all who have Christ in their hearts is really significant. In other words, when you are gathered in your church next Sunday morning, look around, because these people are the ministers. Sunday morning is the ministerium, the gathering of the ministers of the church. I turn now to another quote, and this is from Samuel Southard, who wrote a little book entitled, well, he's written several books, but this one is Comprehensive Care. And he says here, many persons can do most of what we pastors do. The task of pastors is to equip these persons for ministry and support them through administration and example. Now we can listen to that, and who can question it until you begin really looking at it in depth. And over a long period of time, I had to really sit back and ponder, can this be? And if I had to do this, you as lay people will have to also do it. Sit back and ponder, can this really be true? Listen again, many persons, this is you, can do most of what we pastors do. And the task of pastors is to equip these persons for ministry and support them through administration and example. Let me read one more item here to help you see that you can truly do this thing of pastoral care. It comes from Alistair Campbell, a Scottish churchman, in his book Rediscovering Pastoral Care. It says, pastoral care is not correctly understood if it is viewed within the framework of professionalism. Pastoral care is a relationship founded upon the integrity of the individual. Such a relationship does not depend primarily upon the acquisition of knowledge or the development of skill. Rather, it depends upon a certain caring attitude for others, which comes from our own experience of pain, fears, and loss, and our own release from their deadening grip. Now, I don't know much about any of you, but I do know this, that you've been through some deep waters. You've been through some pain and fears and loss. But more than that, you've experienced the lifting power of God. And that brings you into a relationship not only with God, but with those who significantly helped you. And so Alistair Campbell says that pastoral care is a relationship. So what we're doing here, what we're talking about here is that you can do it. When we say that the lay pastor's ministry is a system of congregational care by lay people, let me say it again, you can do it. There is the story of a little girl who was asleep in her room in the middle of the night, and the storm came up, and the winds blew and rattled the window panes, and the lightning flashed, and the thunder shook the house, and this little girl woke up scared, and she called out for her mother. Her mother came in, quieted her down, went back to bed, and the same thing happened. Her mother came in again and sat down beside her and said, "Honey, I don't want you to be afraid. You know that God is with you, that God loves you." And the little girl, whimpering, said, "Yes, but I need love with skin on it." Well, this is a good definition of the lay pastor's ministry, and this is why you can do it, because you can be love with skin on it to a number of people. You have the essential qualities to go at it right now: empathy, warmth, genuineness, integrity, a caring attitude, listening. You see, you can see yourselves doing this. Availability, patience, that is bearing with people, ability to encourage. Let me give you a little writing that comes out of Tim Hansel's book, Holy Sweat. You can just about figure out what a book entitled Holy Sweat would be about. It'd be about rolling up our shirt sleeves and really going to work for God. But he cites some friend of his who came up with this. He says, God uses what you can do to accomplish what you never could have done. Now think of yourself doing lay pastoral care, you see. Do what you can do. God uses what you can do to accomplish what you never could have done. There are three more statements like that. The second is, God uses what you have to fill a need you never could have filled. And the third is, God uses where you are to take you where you never could have gone. And then God uses who you are to let you become who you never could have been. This is based on the account of the little boy giving the 5 loaves and the 2 fish to Jesus. Here were these 5,000 people that were hungry. How are they going to be fed? Well, 5 loaves and 2 fish probably wouldn't even satisfy the hunger of this little boy. But he gave it to Jesus, and Jesus then took what the little boy gave to him, and he fed the 5,000. So that's what gave rise to what this man wrote. God uses what you can do to accomplish what you never could have done. And God uses what you have to fill a need you never could have filled. So you can do it. Let me give you the definition of pastoral care that we use. Pastoral care is caring for another by giving oneself in Christian love to a relationship in times of weakness and times of strength. It's caring for another. Now, if that's as far as the definition went, it really wouldn't be too bad. But we need to add this: it's caring for another by giving oneself. Here is the key: giving oneself. But the definition doesn't end there. There's the Christian distinctive to bring Christ and the Holy Spirit into this: caring for another by giving oneself in Christian love to a relationship. So you don't only give yourself, you give it to the relationship. Not only to the person, you see, but to the relationship that is developing. And in times of weakness, when the chips are down and things are not going good, but that's not all. Also in times of strength, when life's condition is good and it's time to party and to celebrate. So that's the definition of pastoral care: caring for another by giving oneself in Christian love to a relationship in times of weakness, times of strength. We find the Bible not only calls forth this ministry, but it gives us an excellent model. This is found in Exodus 18. It's when Moses had delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt, and out there in the wilderness, he was trying to take care of all of their needs. His father-in-law Jethro saw what was going on. He saw Moses from morning to night sitting, and people in long lines, and Moses was answering their questions, helping them in their problems, listening to them, teaching them, giving them guidance and so forth. And at the end of the day, Moses was worn out, and many of the people were never able to get to him. So his father Jethro said, "Moses, what you're doing is not good." And I think Moses must have agreed with that, because he did what Jethro told him. Jethro said, and this turned out to be the plan of God for Moses and for the caring of his people, that he was to divide the people into thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. This is where we get the idea of a lay pastor caring for between 5 and 10 families. And so Moses, who was the head of everything, decentralized, and he got it down to leaders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and ultimately down to 10, so that everyone had somebody else to relate to significantly, and their needs were met. And so we read that after Moses did this, the people were satisfied. And so the idea for the lay pastor's ministry comes from where? It comes from the Bible. It isn't something that we've designed and then tried to find if it fits in the Bible somewhere. It comes from the Bible. In it, that is in the Bible, God calls us, you and me, to care for his people. He gives the teaching about what to do and how it is to be done, and he provides the model to show how it has been done before. The lay pastor's ministry, a system of congregational care by lay people.
This concludes the first unit. Please stop the tape. The next unit will focus on who needs it.